everybody, it's Cindy here from Hooked on Crafts, and today I've got a market recap for you. Have you guys ever had a show where traffic seems slow, you're making a few sales here and there, but you're not selling anything big, and you're thinking, oh, this is not going to be a good market? Well, that's kind of what happened to me this weekend. So this show that I go to, and I've went to this show for the last 3 or 4 years, and I used to do this show probably about 10 or 15 years ago when my kids were smaller. It's at Little Flower Church. It is put on by the PTO there. It's the Holiday Craft Bazaar. It's like the 34th annual, so it's a long-standing show, and it generally gets a good crowd. And I always get a booth in the basement because it's cheaper. And unless you've done this show for 20 years, it's really hard to get an upstairs booth. So I always try to get a booth downstairs. It's a little more roomy. And if you remember last year, I showed that there were only about 4 or 5 vendors down in the basement, and it probably would hold maybe 15 to 20. So it was pretty slim pickings down there. And the reason for that is there's another show here in town. If you guys watch Stacy at Stacy Makes here on YouTube. Hi, Stacy. She does a show also here in Springfield, Illinois, and it is called the Hobnob Market. And this is a huge show. It is probably one of the biggest shows around this area that's put on. It has a much higher booth fee. It also has a much higher traffic flow. If you guys watched her recap just the other day, there was probably 4,000 or 5,000 people in and out of that building, and it's a lot. It's almost too much for me. I don't think that I could handle that type of traffic on what I'm able to make. Honestly, I don't think I could make enough inventory to support a show that big, nor do I think I could do that show by myself. And if you've been with me a while, sometimes my daughter Haley will help me, but she's getting older now. She's in college and she has a job. Well, she has 2 jobs, and she works a lot on the weekends. So a lot of times I am going to these shows by myself, and it's just me. And that type of show is just too much for me. I can't do it. I can't do it by myself. There's just no way. So I'm glad Stacy had a great show, and I'm glad I also had a great show. But I will say that the Hobnob Market used to happen the 3rd weekend in November. Now, when I'm filming this, this is November 11th. This is Veterans Day. Thank you for all those who served and are currently serving. Hobnob used to be the 3rd weekend in November, and for the last 2 years, they've decided to do theirs the 2nd weekend in November, which is the same weekend that Little Flower has always put on their craft bazaar. So it has hurt the traffic there, I think, a little bit. And I also think it's hurt our vendor turnout there. But that's here nor there, it is what it is. I still feel like this is a great show for me, and we're going to get into it. So first, I'm going to show you kind of what my setup looked like this year, and the folks here are really nice. I have one booth, and because there's not very many vendors down in the basement, they let us spread out. So I was able to have an extra table for my 3D printed stuff. And if you watched last year, I kind of did the same thing down there. So here's a clip from what the setup looks like. We get to set up on Friday night, starting at 4:30. Okay, this is what setup is looking like today. And it's about 20 minutes before the doors open, and I've already made 2 sales. I still haven't quite perfected how to do the 3D printed stuff, but this is what we're going with today. we get to set up at 4:30, and it's setup is 4:30 to 7:30. Luckily, my husband was able to go with me, and he helps carry the tables and the heavy lifting stuff down the stairs because it's a lot. It's like 2 flights of stairs. Well, I would say 1 flight of stairs. Down in the basement is typically where their cafeteria is for the school, and that is where I set up. And there is no elevator in this school. So it's a little hard for me to carry those tables because tables are heavy, even the ones that fold. I find them heavy. So he helps me get the tables down there and get them set up, and then he usually takes off and I do my thing. So this show usually has a few other crocheters. They don't make near the plushies like I make, but some of them do make plushies. And this year, there was also someone who had a few other 3D printed items, but again, not near to the extent of what I had. But I did find a new fidget that these folks were selling that I think is going to be a huge hit, and I will print them for my next market. I did not. I did end up making one when I came home after day one because I wanted to see one how they worked, and two how hard they were to print. And Heather from Heather Cottontail Crafts, if anybody is close to her and is watching this, have her take a look because I know she prints 3D items. And this is the newest little fidget gadget. Also, from What's Up Cupcakes, she does 3D printed items, but I don't think she prints any toys. I think she just does mostly crochet theme stuff like hooks and eye tools and all that. Well, fidgets are one of my best sellers for 3D items. And this little guy is so cool. It has like a little stick in it. And the kids, they love this noise. And they were carrying these around. This is what somebody else in the booth upstairs had. And I printed, hold on one moment. I printed 2 of these. So I printed this great big one. And again, I'm going to do a green one, and it has a star on the top because I think it would be cool for Christmas, just to kind of give to some little ones in our family or whatever. But I'm sorry, it's hard to hold where you guys can see it. But they can kind of make it go all different ways while it sits on the table. But this is what they were doing. Now, that might drive mom and dad crazy, but they can play with it in a room or whatever. It really isn't that bad, but if you guys can hear the noise, I'll try to put it close to my mic here. They were loving them. This is the big one. This was the medium sized one. And there is a small one too, and I have not printed it yet, just because I haven't had a chance. It's only Tuesday, and sorry, I'm messing with my mic here. It's only Tuesday, and I need a day rest. Honestly, after a show, I just need a day to rest because it's a lot. If you've never done a show, it's a lot. My social battery is on empty by the end of a show from all the interactions with folks. And yeah, so it's a lot. So hopefully you saw my setup. I had a few new items in this setup. One, Robin's Nibbles the Mouse. Nibbles the Mouse? Ooh, hold on, I gotta check that. Okay, let's look. He might be named Cookie the Mouse. Sorry, I'm pulling it up on my iPad here. I bought a few new patterns, and Cookie Mouse is the name of them. So if you give a mouse a cookie is basically the theme of this little mouse. And he is absolutely adorable. He's smaller than what I thought he was going to be, but he works up really quick. And I had put $20 on Cookie the Mouse. So that was one of the first items that I sold. I will tell you that. Also, I'm kind of behind on my recaps. I've done another show in October, and that recap is coming soon. But I wanted to get this one out because it's more holiday themed and it's more relevant right now. So what I found at my last show is I really need to have a few new items. The new items were the ones that seemed to be selling. So I had made some Perry the Platypus, and that is Perry the Platypus is really the platypus pal. It's this guy. Um, it is made by Clover Crochet on Instagram, Clover Crochet 4 on Etsy. This was a paid pattern, but I had made quite a few Perry the Platypus because the people at my last show really liked those. I sold out of almost everything I had. So I went and I made more of those. I also wanted to do the capybara. Um, I have, now this one is a free Instagram pattern by Sweet Beans Crochet. This is Sweet Beans Crochet Mochi the capybara. And this one I made out of Bernat blanket, so it turns out a pretty good size. I would say he's probably about this. I sell him for $10. If you haven't been with me for a while, I like to sell. I have a few price points that I think are the sweet spot, and I'm thinking about upping the price on these. Typically, I like to have $5 items, $10 items, $15 items, 20. I like to keep them in the 5 group, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I don't do like 26, 28, 27. It just makes it easier for me when I'm making change and people have cash and I don't have to have near as many ones. But I'm thinking about changing that strategy. However, I do think that 5, 10, and $15 items are the sweet spot. And you don't make a lot of big sales, but you make a lot of little small sales. And that is exactly what happened in this market. So the capybaras were pretty popular. I had made some more of the bullet bees because I had not made bees in a while. However, at my last show, bees were popular. And so I made a few more, and I'm like, okay, well, if people are going back to bees, I'll make a few more bees. So those did not, they did not sell for me at this market. I did not sell one single bee. So capybaras, Perry the Platypus, of course, my little loaf cats. My loaf cat is based on the Annie Caraway pattern. I do make it smaller. I modify it to make it smaller. It's more the size of April's Max, the market kitty, I believe is what she calls hers. He's right around that size. So he's not, Annie's cat is really big and it's really cute, but it takes a lot of stuffing. And I think that one would probably need to be priced more in the $20 to $25 range, honestly. And I like to keep my stuff cheap so the folks that are at these markets with kids can afford to get them something and not have them throw a fit or whatever. So I had made lots of cats. Cats are my number one seller, always at every single market. I had probably had started with 30. I sold at least 22 of these. Okay. So I did come home with a few cats. However, they are still my number one seller. One of the other things that I've been trying to do is a lot more of the animals on swings. So I had frogs, I had axolotls, I had bees, I had a few of those kind of items. I also kind of expanded my $5 items. I made some of the sour gummy worms, and I had made some of the turtles. I had made some of the Tink, the tiny no-sold turtles off Instagram. This is a free pattern. This is what it looks like on Instagram, and it is by, let's see here, Manny Free Patterns. No. Crochet. This is by Crochet by IGR is the designer. And these work up really quick. I don't know if this is the same. There's so many of these little turtle patterns out there. I don't know if that's the same pattern that everybody's using or not, but these work up really quick and really, I just was trying to use some of my scraps. I had a lot of little balls of Bernat blanket. And yes, I'm still using Bernat blanket because I bought a ton of Bernat blanket when Joann's was closing. And I got it for a really good price, which makes my profit margins that much more, right? Most of these skeins of yarn I got for $3 or $4. So if I sell one $5 item and I can make probably at least 10 $5 items out of one skein of yarn, I have made my money and then some. So I am working through my Bernat blanket. Yeah, I also throw in some of the Sweet Snuggles Light, but really I've been trying to use what I have and get my stash down to a more manageable in my household, and so that I don't have yarn like I feel like I'm being overwhelmed by yarn. So so throughout the day I sold a lot of 3D items, 3D printed items. The fidgets are always a hit. I make the clickers. Hold on one second, I'll show you a couple. So I make these little 3D clickers, and they are made with they're made with keyboard keys for like your computer keyboard. And again, I'll try to get it close to my mic here. I apologize. The weather's changed here and my allergies are going crazy today. So these little guys, they're cute. I put a little like clip on them where they could clip them on their backpack or their purse or whatever. So those are one of my big sellers. And then also, and I sell these, the clickers for $5. And then I also do infinity cubes. This is what they call an infinity cube. It's on Maker's World. There's a lot of different styles. But anyways, the infinity cubes are usually a big hit. They're great for autistic kids. They're just little fidgets. And honestly, I gave these to all of the girls at work last year and they love them. So this is another one of my big sellers. Of course, little odds and ends. I also had little dumpster fire clickers. I had a dumpster fire desk organizer that sold. I had some bookmarks that are Hue Forge printed, and they have pictures on them. Roll back, you'll see them on the top shelf. They are really cool. Actually, hold on, I'll grab one. So these are some of the bookmarks that I had printed. And these are really cool. I just love making bookmarks. People say, oh, does anybody really read anymore? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I just like making bookmarks. I still read. Granted, a lot of times I read on my tablet, but that's okay. I also read physical books and I use books at work. So these are just a few of the different styles of bookmarks. And this one's a cat. I thought it was really cool. That was a new one that I printed. I printed my little black kitties. If you've been here a while, I have several black kitties. So I always have to print a black kitty. This one is a girl. Hopefully you can see her in there. This one is really cool. It's a wave. But, and then I also did some Jesus Christ because this is a Catholic church. And I did sell one of those. And then also this little kitten that I think is really cute. So I like to have those. I sell the bookmarks also for $5. Again, sticking with the theme, 5, 10, 15. I do have in my 3D printed items some $8 items. I do a lot of the little minis that are $2 each or 3 for $5. And I have little organza bags that they can put their treasures in, and the kids seem to like that. So I was not selling a ton of huge things, but I was selling a lot of little things. And I had sent my husband a text, and I'm like, this is, it's pretty slow here today. I don't know if I'm gonna make any money. And some markets are just like that. I know I've been watching a lot of market recaps, and some people have said that the market there's a lot of competition out there for crocheters and also for 3D printers. But there's also just people don't have a lot of disposable income. And a plushie or a 3D printed fidget is not something someone needs. Let's face it, most things at craft shows aren't things that people really need. They're things they want, they're pretty, they're nice to have, but you could live without them if you really, if times were tight and you needed to live without them, you could live without them. But I told my husband, I said, I don't think I'm doing that well. And so I pulled up my square, and I don't usually do this during the day because I feel like you kind of jinx yourself when you do this. But I pulled up my square, and I already had $300 by, like, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock. And I was like, oh, maybe it's not as slow as what I thought. I always, almost every show, with the exception of the last show I did, and you'll see that in an upcoming video, I always sell something before the show starts. Um, One of my shows, I sold my $100 dragon before the show even started. So I made my booth fee. I will usually sell $30 to $40 worth of stuff while I'm setting up, and people swarm to my table while I'm setting up. And this show is no exception. There's a lot of kids running around. There's a lot of parents that are in the PTO that help run this show, and they're help getting people situated. Well, they have their kids with them, and their kids are running around and playing, and they're outside on the playground sometimes, but then they're also down looking at what the vendors have. And they look for my booth. They know I'm going to have stuff that's kid friendly, that they're going to like. And these kids will hang out and watch me put my displays together the whole time I'm setting up. So it takes me a little bit longer. They're always very respectful, for the most part. Most of the kids, they know just to look, not to touch. They want to know, can I do something to help? Can I help you in any way? So I love that about them. And I have a cute little story later on about one of the little boys that comes to visit my booth. I don't think he has a ton of money. His mom doesn't usually give him a ton of money to buy stuff. But I had ran out of something to drink. I usually take one of my big cups with me full of water. Um, and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was thirsty and I didn't have anything to drink, and I was by myself. And he's hanging around my booth, and I said, hey, would you want to make a trade with me? If I give you money to go up and grab me a soda at the concession stand and bring it back, I will let you pick out one of the $5 items that of your choice that you want. And he's like, really? What? I said, yeah, if you run up and grab me a soda, I'll give you the money. You run up and grab me a soda and bring it back to me. I'll let you pick out one item off the table that you want. That's $5. And he was so excited. He's like, okay. And so off he went. He got me my sodas. I was happy. I got something to drink. And I let him pick out one of the little $5 fidget dragons that I do. So yeah, it was cute. He was adorable. He's there every year. I have a couple young, probably third graders, maybe second or third graders, that come and visit me. And one little boy loves the plushies. He loves the plushies. He wants to buy the plushies. And he usually does buy the plushies. A lot of these kids, and I didn't realize this was a thing. I guess I kind of did, because my kids had one of these cards that their aunt gave them, but the little green light cards where their parents can put money on it and they have their own money to spend. Several kids had those, and I said, hey, how is this your mom's card? And they're like, no, it's mine. My mom puts money on it when I help around the house and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that is a great thing to teach your kids, right? If they have their own money, it means more to them when they're spending their own money versus mom's money, I think. And they earn their money, just like in life. We all go to work, we earn our money, and then that's what we get to buy. So I thought it was cute. Kids were running around. So let's get to some of the numbers. So day one, I ended up, this show on day one was 9 to 4. You can get in as a vendor at 8 o'clock. So I, of course, usually get there early. I didn't have my setup completely done from the night before because there was a lot going on, and I was still trying to get my pricing signs up. Pricing signs are very important. If you haven't done shows, make sure people can see your prices from from the walkway. Make sure people can see your prices from the walkway. I think it's very important. People are shy. They don't want to come into your booth and not be able to afford something and maybe be embarrassed, or they don't want to have to ask. And I think it's important, especially if you have great prices on your items, make sure people know that they're great prices. Um, it's the silent salesman is your pricing. So, and a lot of people say, well, I put a tag on everything. I get that. And that is a one way a lot of people do it. Me, I believe in having a sign. Having a sign. I worked in retail for over 25 years. And the way to sell something in retail is, one, make sure it has a label if it's on a shelf, and two, if it's on a rack, make sure it has a sign. Those are the things that are going to sell your products. You can disagree with that, but I'm telling you, somebody who has been in the business for a long time, and I ran several different retail establishments in my day, and signing sells. Signing sells. It just does. It's your silent salesman. And if you want people to buy your stuff, have some signing up, especially on items that are very cost friendly. Maybe not everything. I don't have signs for everything. But on my little items that are $10, that are $5, everything has a sign. People don't want to have to ask, how much is this? How much is that? What is this? They don't want to have to guess. They want to know what they're paying for. They want to know when their kids come in your booth, how much money they don't want to be embarrassed and not have enough for something and then have the kid throw a fit and cry and everything. So have my number one tip for anybody who's new to markets, just starting out, have signing helps. Have a sign, stand up, talk to people, be friendly. um, Kids are going to be in your booth. If you sell plushies, kids are going to be in your booth, and they're going to touch everything. Everything. They're going to touch it. It's just a matter of how it is. Parents aren't always with their kids, especially at this show, because the moms and stuff are working the booths upstairs. They're working the concession stands. The kids are running around. I know this. I know it going in. I'm not going to get bent out of shape. Now, if I see somebody who's being a little rough with something, I'll ask them not to. Hey, could you please be easy with that, or put it down? But in all honesty, if they're playing with one of these little 3D items and it breaks at the table from them just playing with it, then it probably wasn't made well enough, and I shouldn't be selling it. So, and that's just the way I look at it. If sometimes 3D printed stuff, it's plastic, it's going to break, right? If kids are rough with it. But you want your stuff to be made well enough that it's going to last for a while. And if it breaks at the table, it shouldn't really be sold anyways, in my opinion. So I'm always really friendly with the kids. The kids are my bread and butter. They're what's buying things. Okay. Um, so day one, I didn't get a clip after day one, and I'm sorry. I do have enough stock where a lot of times I will have my little travel bags underneath my table, underneath the tablecloth, and I don't put everything out in the beginning, and I restock as we go. And that's kind of another strategy. I don't want my table to be overcrowded. I don't want people to think I've got 30 cats. I want them to think I have 6 or 7 cats, and maybe one of this style and one of this style. Because what will happen if you have a lot is what I found is people say, oh, I'm going to look around, and they never come back. They never come back. They decide they don't want it. But if there's only 1 or 2 of those items, they'll pick it up while they're there because they're afraid it'll sell by the time they make it back. And a lot of times that happens. I do, for my 3D printed items, I sell a lot of onesies, right? The big dragons, the crystal dragons that I sell. I usually don't make, I make a lot of them, but I don't make them all that look the same. They're all out of different filament. Same with the dragons and the eggs. I make a lot of them out of different filament and different facial features. So they're all different. They're one of a kinds, kind of. I don't do a lot of mass production in those items. Even the little fidgets, I try to do them in different colors, right? You do one in this color, you do one in this color, you know, you do one in this color. So I try to only have a few. That way, if somebody really likes something, if they want a specific color, they will pick it up while they're there. So, day one, total sales. I get home and I'm counting, and I told my husband, I just told him I didn't think I was going to do very well. My booth fee at Little Flower is $80, if I didn't say that already. So for day one, I made $1,137. So that was a pretty good day to me. I like to go by the rule of thumb. If I make 10 times my booth fee, which would have been $800, it's a great market. It's a great market. It's worth my while. It's worth my time. So day one, I've already made over my $800 mark. So to me, that was very much worth my while. That's just the way I do it. I know people do it different, but to me, if you just make your booth fee back, you didn't lose anything. If you make 5 times your booth fee, it's a good market. It's a good market, right? If I would have made $400, it's $400 I didn't have before, but that 10 times your booth fee at $800, I think that's just the rule of thumb I go by. I will tell you, I'm not very good at keeping track of my inventory. I'm not very good at keeping track of sales as I'm selling things because things get busy, right? $1,000 worth of sales on 10 and 5 and $15 items are a lot more transactions than somebody who's selling $60 items or $50 items. So things get a little crazy. And even in my square, I have all of my different items in there individually. But when things get crazy, I start adding them up. And if somebody's got 3 items, I put in $30 and hit sale. So people don't have to wait, and it just goes smoother that way. So I apologize for that. I don't go item by item. But I do want to say the little mouse, that is Robin's at Notting Hook Crochet. Cookie the mouse. I loved it. I made a second one when I got home that night, and we'll talk about that for day two. But that was one of the first things that sold. Also, the loaf cats, still my number one seller. Perry the Platypus did okay. He was not my number one seller, but he did okay. The capybaras people loved. I only sold maybe 3 animals on a swing for the whole show, which was surprising because people have been doing great with those, and they were just so for this market. It wasn't the demographic. I had a lot of younger kids at my booth, not really a lot of adults. So that kind of makes sense to me because they don't have cars when they're in second grade. But I did sell a couple. I had taken, I've had a couple cows that I've had in my inventory for probably over a year now. And before this market started, I marked them down. I marked it down to $25 because really I just wanted them to be gone. I wanted to get some new, fresh stuff. And so I marked them down. Um, day two. Day two started at 10 a.m. and it only went to 2 p.m. So 4 hours, 4 hour on Sunday, which is plenty. By the time you get in there, they usually are at church services when you get there. And then about 10:30, 11 o'clock, church service lets out. And a lot of those folks that are at the church service come over to shop then at the craft show. And this was kind of the case. I will say there's a lot of older folks that go to mass there, and they don't come downstairs because the stairs are too hard for them, and that's a pity for me because I miss those customers. I have thought about trying to get a booth upstairs. It's only $100 for a booth upstairs, but it's just so close quarters and congested. I just don't know. I just don't know if I want to do that. The kids love coming downstairs. They're my customers, so that's typically I just stay downstairs and try to be a vendor downstairs. So day 2 started. I will tell you my Snorlax, which I had $40 on, um, sold. One of my dragons from Genevieve, oh, uh, Jenna's, the one who has the book of the no so, I think it's Crochet by Jenna. I think is her name. I had 2 of those, and one of those sold. Um, I sold both my cows, the Snorlax, and a couple other little things to one customer, and that was my biggest sell of the day. It was an $80 sell of the whole show. That was my biggest sell, was $80. So again, I sell a lot of little things, and it's a lot of transactions. So day two, total sales came in at $631. And this is what my booth looked like after that. Now, most of my stock has been taken out at this time. There's very little underneath in the bags. I have a few cats. I had some ghosts that I made. That's another story for a different show, that were still in the bag. And really just some odds and ends stuff that I don't know. Do you guys ever make something and you're not that crazy about it and you're like, I'm just not going to put it out? I have a few chickens that I made probably 2 years ago left. And honestly, the polyfill, I did not stuff them enough, and the polyfill is almost non existent in them. I've thought about opening up and salvaging the yarn and making it into a turtle or something and just get rid of them. They may go in the trash. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I don't feel comfortable selling them because they just don't have enough stuffing in them anymore. And so I've started stuffing my things much more compact, to try to combat some of that. If you don't sell something one year, then it'll still be good the next year. So total, let's look at what the booth looked like first before I give you total for the whole kit and caboodle. I'm going to insert it right here. Okay, this is what we look like at the end of the show. Okay, as you can see, I sold quite a few things. Yes, I still had some things left, but I, I had 2 to 3 empty bags by the time I left, and my totes for my 3D printed items are all at least half to a fourth full. So I sold a lot of items. So total sales for this market for me, $1,768. I had an $80 booth fee. My square fees, I had 747. Sorry, I'm looking down at my paper. I had $747 worth of square sales, and so my fee was $24.82. And I'm going to say this is my total profit. I know I'm not taking in the cost of materials and all of that, so don't come after me. But for the purposes of this video, total market sales $1,668. I call that a win. That is 20 times my booth fee, and I will take it. I will take it all day long. That's a profitable market for me. Um, it's really right in my sweet spot. If I do much more than that, I will tell you that I'm exhausted by the end of the weekend. So that's my market recap. I hope you guys were able to find some things that you can make for your markets. If you know anybody with a 3D printer printing fidgets, these little guys Apparently, they're a TikTok rage. I'm not on TikTok. I very seldom get on TikTok. So these are a TikTok rage. They're quick prints, an hour and a half to 2 hours, which is quick for a 3D printer. Quick little fidgets. So if anybody out there has that, yeah, those are a great item. The little clickers, people love those too. People love to fidget. Kids in general love to fidget. Um, Adults love to fidget. If you're having a stressful day at work and this is quiet and you can just fidget away and nobody will even know. If you're in your little cubicle or your office, nobody's going to know you're even fidgeting. I also had minis. The little mini animals also sell really well. It's hard for me to know which animals to make. If anybody out there does the 3D printed mini animals, tell me what your number one seller is. I would say mine were, I sold almost out of all the squirrels. I had dinosaurs. The kids like the dinosaurs. They like the iguanas. I only had probably 7 or 8 of those, and I sold almost all of those. Sharks, dolphins, narwhals, all of the above. I had mini infinity cubes that I put in with my minis. Those tend to do well. So yeah, that is my market recap, guys. I hope you guys are having great markets out there. Don't give up. Don't forget to sign your stuff. It really is the silent salesman. Be friendly. Be happy to see people. Interact with people. You don't have to be a salesman. I'm not a salesman. I don't try to push things on people, but I will greet every single person that comes in my booth. Hi, how's it going? How's your day going? Whatever. Talk to people. Talk to people. Don't sit in your chair and just crochet. Yes, people like to know that it was handmade, but really they want you to just be nice. Be patient with the little kids. Yes, you sell plushies. Little kids are drawn to plushies. They are your bread and butter. Yes, sometimes they have dirty hands. Sometimes they have suckers. I don't like when they have suckers, but I still, unless they're going to damage my plushie, I'm not going to fuss at them about it. That's all I got, guys. I hope your markets this season are great. This is my final market, and I am going to be working on some things for me. If you watched my last video, I've been working on a sweater for myself, which I'm happy to say I finished. That's coming soon to a video. I finished another pair of knitted socks. I'm almost done with another pair of knitted socks. I probably, in the next month or so, will have those finished. And I got a local yarn store in my town. And we have not had a local yarn store since I've lived here. And I just happened to be scrolling through Facebook and we got a local yarn store here. So, of course, I had to go check them out. I bought a couple skeins of sock yarn because I like to knit socks. They're easy. I just do plain vanilla socks. They're easy. I can just do it while I watch TV. It's non-stressful. I always have a pair of socks on the go, usually a pair at the office for my lunch hour, just to fiddle with after I've eaten. And yeah, and I always have a pair going at home. And sometimes it takes me 6 months to finish a pair because I got other things going on like market prep. But sometimes I have some time. I want to start a new sweater for myself. I'm thinking about trying to crochet. I really want an asymmetrical poncho kind of cover for the spring, maybe. I don't know. I'm on the hunt for a good pattern, probably a wearable for me, just because I'm tired of making plushies for a while and I'm gonna give it a break. That's so I know sometimes you guys want to make things for yourself too. I will probably be doing a few things for Christmas. With my 3D printer, maybe. I'll still be printing stuff because printing is slow and it takes me a while to build up stock to get ready for the next season. But I usually only do 3 markets a year, and this was the 3rd market for this year. I did one in the spring, which I don't remember what my total was for that one. I'll have to go back and watch that video, but it was very profitable. And if you remember, I tried to get into their Christmas show, and she already had too many crocheters, and she did not accept my application. So I went to Brinkelhoff. That is the one that I have not done the recap yet. But it's coming. Hopefully, maybe even today, if I get some time, I'll sit down and do that one and let you know how that one went. It was a doozy. That one was a doozy. You'll want to stay tuned for what happened. It was a little bit of a shit show, honestly, but you'll want to stay tuned. And it wasn't any fault of the organizer; it was all my fault. But yeah, well, I'll get to that one sooner or later. Um, but yeah, I hope everybody has great markets. Enjoy your holiday season. Take care. Keep crocheting. Bye.